Hey geeks, welcome to the 16th episode of Rockin the Code World with dotNetDave. I'm David McCarter, and I'm glad you're here. I'm excited about our guest today, Leslie. I've never talked to her before, so I like talking to new, interesting people. So this is going to be a great show. I'm still feeling pretty much under the weather, so I pre-apologize for making any mistakes during the show, because it's I've been dealing with some illness for a week now, and it's really draining my energy. So I know a lot of my uh, see, I'm doing it already. I know a lot of my viewers are from India, so if you guys have any secret Indian immunity boost things, please post them on the chat. Gosh, see? Post them on the chat, and if you're watching this recorded, please tweet it to me, and I'll check it out. I'm sure you guys have some secrets that we don't know in America. So anyway, yeah, today this is my 16th show, and my guest today is Leslie Richardson, Technical Programming Manager 2 at Microsoft on the Visual Studio team. So we had somebody on the Visual Studio team a couple of weeks ago, and now I have another one. And I'm going to keep trying to get people on the Visual Studio team because there's a lot to Visual Studio to talk about, really. There's a lot to talk about the language, of course, but there's also a lot to talk about Visual Studio. I know there's lots of things in Visual Studio that I probably don't even know that's there, and so it's good to get this out into the internet. So anyway, so let's get going. If my slide deck will work, yep. So if you didn't know, last month I released my 7th edition of David McCarter Rock Your Code Coding Standards for Microsoft.NET. It's the only pure coding standards book out there. I've worked on it, for 16 years now. This is my 16th year having the book, and just a few days ago, I got an actual copy. So it took a while. There were some shipping delays and some stuff like that. So I finally got a real copy, and so I'm excited to start giving them away and or selling autographed copies. I've already sold a couple autographed copies I'm going to be shipping out. So those of you who ordered one, I'm going to be shipping them out next week as soon as I can get to the post office. So I hope you'll pick up a copy and let me know how you like it, and if there's anything you'd like to see in the next edition. Because I plan to do another one, pretty much every time there's a new .NET version. So, because at least when there's big language changes in .NET at least. So, anyway. So we have some giveaways today. I'm going to change the second giveaway. I'll explain it in a second. So everybody on the show will get my favorite code refactoring tool, CodeRush from DevExpress. And then I'll also give away some CSharpCorner swag, and which includes t-shirts, backpacks, whatever they have in their offices, I guess. And so I think we're going to do the first one now. Yep. So everybody gets a copy of CodeRush from DevExpress. Please go to devexpress.com/dotnetdave and download your real copy of DevExpress. Like I've said many times on the show, CodeRush is my favorite refactoring tool. I've been using it ever since Visual Studio came out. It's ever since DevExpress came out, almost probably close to 20 years ago. And, I can't tell you how much faster it makes me at getting my job done. And so, they've told me that you guys aren't downloading it, so why not? It's free. You can download it. It doesn't, and try it out. Why not? If you don't have any refactoring tool, you really need to get one, because I know Visual Studio has refactoring tools in it, and they do get better, but they're not near as good as software like CodeRush from DevExpress. So please download a copy and let me know, and let DevExpress know how you like CodeRush. So I'm going to change up the CSharpCorner GIF giveaway, which includes T-shirts and pencils and stickers and hats or whatever else they have laying around their offices, because, the last 3 weeks, no one's guessed the question. I've made the questions at the end of the show easier and easier, but no one's guessing them. So I'm going to drop the question requirement for winning the CSharpCorner gift bag and see how this works. So to win the to win the CSharpCorner giveaway, tweet a screen grab of the guest, Leslie and I, me interviewing Leslie today, and tweet it to CSharpCorner, C# live show and real dotNetDave, and we'll pick a winner and announce it on the show. So get your screen grab software ready, because next is going to be the interview. So that's how you win. So I can't make it any easier than that. So I hope somebody wins today. Simon will be watching the Twitter feed and then announcing the winner during the show. Okay. So with that, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my guest today, Leslie Richardson. She's a technical programming manager too at Microsoft, specifically on the Visual Studio team. And that's why she's, I'm really interested about having her on the show. I was reading her bio today, and, with every guest I have, I don't usually read the entire bio, but I'm going to read Leslie's because, for someone so young, she has a pretty impressive bio. I sure wish I had this kind of bio when I was in my 20s for sure. So at least I think she's in her 20s. I'm sorry, Leslie, if I blew it. So here it goes. Leslie is a program manager on the Visual Studio extensibility team. She focuses on improving the overall extensibility experience of Visual Studio while currently helping to drive a simpler out-of-proc extensibility API. She also worked on the debugging team, where she debugged developers' problems by designing a new debugging tool such as Pinnable Properties. And I think I've heard about those, but I hope we get to talk about that on the show. And improving existing ones such as Parallel Stack Window. Leslie is also involved in community outreach as a host of Visual Studio Toolbox show. I've watched the show, and you can catch her singing and dancing to the virtual Microsoft and musical video on YouTube. Wow, I didn't know that. So, Leslie, welcome, Leslie. I didn't know you could sing. I wrote a song for my mom. I actually started it, when she was only had a few weeks left on this earth, and I've always wanted lyrics to it, but I wanted female lyrics. So maybe I'm going to hit you up later, and because I don't know any female singers, but now I do. So
yeah, expand your network.
yeah, and you can play piano. That's perfect. That'll be perfect on the song.
Yeah, you're just expanding your band. That's like the whole point of this podcast, right?
That's right. It's the music is done. I just need the female singer and lyrics. The opening music, that on the show is, I wrote that, and then I, reached out to 3 of my geek friends, one locally. Oh, actually 2 locally and 1 in Germany, and we put it all together. And so that's that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think I have the, I don't want to be all boastful, but I think I have the best opening music of any live video show.
I like it. It beats ours on Toolbox.
Yeah. At least on CSharpCorner, I definitely have, I think, the best intro music. But anyway, welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here. And we were talking before the show, before anybody asked. Yes, that's Leslie's kitchen and living room. So
welcome.
It's not fake, it's not fake background like mine, right? So, Anyway, so how are you doing today, this weekend?
I'm doing all right. I'm happy it's the weekend. Can't wait to relax. I was actually doing a exhausting workout prior to this podcast, so like I feel invigorated and
Wow,
ready to
wow.
chat.
I can barely wake up before this podcast, so
I feel that there are days where I'm just like, oh no, okay, I
well,
guess.
especially this week, not feeling well doesn't make things any easier, right? So,
Absolutely. I feel like when
yeah,
you're sick, you have every excuse to just be lazy and hang
yeah.
out. You know?
I've watched so much Netflix, and the other day I was so freaking bored. I just subscribed to HBO Max so I could watch some
Hey,
shows, and yeah. So
yeah.
anyway, I'm glad you're on the show, and I'm glad I have somebody else from the Visual Studio team,
Yeah,
and
thanks for having me.
please tell anybody else on your team that wants to be on the show. Let me know because I like I was saying earlier, I really want to have more Visual Studio people because there's a lot to Visual Studio um, that we can talk about, and there's lots of issues we can talk about too, right? So
Totally.
I want to have not only talk about the languages of course, but then talk a lot about the IDE and stuff like that. And so since we're kind of all stuck in Visual Studio most of the day, it's a big topic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 1 hour and a couple guests can't you know cover everything in Visual Studio, but I was really interested about having you on because you are now on the extensibility team. And even though I haven't, written any add-ins or anything like that, I use a lot, and to help me get my work done. And I'm also starting to work with the Code Factory team to do some add-ins with them. And so I'm for the first time, learning, some, code manipulation stuff, using Code Factory, and I hope to get it out sometime this year. Because what I want to do is I want to write a bunch of extensibility into Visual Studio that basically follows, what I practice and preach in this book, right? So kind of going beyond, the style cop, the analyzer kind of thing, but taking those things, but actually, rewriting your code to make sure all of your methods and everything are set up correctly in your classes and things like that. So I'm just starting that, now, so I don't have a lot to add. I don't have a lot to put in on that show about creating extensions, but it's something I've always been interested in, but um,
Well,
never
definitely
seemed to.
share. Oh, I
Yeah,
was gonna say.
never had a lot of time, but now I'm with the release of the book, I'm trying to force myself to learn how to do some of that stuff. So
Cool. Yeah, I mean, definitely share your thoughts when you do get started on it because
yeah,
as somebody who's also fairly new to extensibility, I think there is a lot that can be improved in the writing space, definitely. So, yeah,
yeah. Well, the
feel free to share.
load time definitely needs a lot of help. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Um, Visual Studio just takes longer and longer to load, and I think a lot of that is due to the add-ins and stuff. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So I before I forget, please make a comment if you want to ask Leslie a question live. We'll ask it to her. I have a bunch of questions that I've come up with, and I've sent those to Leslie. So I don't know if you've kind of gone over them, but but the first one I want to start off with is one. It's really interesting. It's actually tweeted by Mahesh, who runs CSharpCorner. And Simon, yeah. So as a woman, what challenges, if any, which I'm sure you have, you face getting into tech, and what advice would you give young women, such as yourself, and even younger, like school age, getting into tech?
Yeah. So I think for me, I would say the biggest challenge is just in terms of lack of representation. Like I didn't
Yeah.
start coding I didn't start coding until college. I
Hmm.
decided to major in computer engineering because it seemed cool and I didn't really know what else I wanted to major in. So I thought I'd give it a try, and I ended up falling in love after my first programming class. But the issues that I saw was that sometimes it felt like, do I really belong here? Because, I was like a lot of the time one of a handful of women in the class. And then as I'd progress into like my higher elective classes, junior, senior year especially, I'd be the woman in class, and especially like the Black woman in class too. So it's just like, all right, that's cool. I wish I had more people to talk to about my shared experiences, my lived experiences with that, and tech too. So, it can feel a little lonely sometimes. And I considered swapping majors several times in college, which I think a lot of people face. And like, I think there's a lot of people in a lot of diverse backgrounds who might start to go into STEM or tech, but then slowly start to drift away because they can't see themselves represented, or they don't have that support system. And luckily for me, I found a group of awesome friends and allies and supporters in college who I still talk to. And I like to call them rant buddies sometimes because, if something went wrong, or, if I was having a hard time in a class, then I could just go to them and rant, and they'd be willing to listen, and vice versa. And it was just really helpful having that support system. So I guess my advice to all the young women out there who are not sure if tech is for them, or if they're struggling and going through some similar experiences that I am, or just anyone who feels like they're underrepresented, don't be afraid to reach out to those people that you trust, be it your friends, even some of your classmates, or if you're, starting your job, finding a mentor, especially, I think is really helpful. And just find those people who you can share those struggles with, and they are willing to help and support you and help you grow. And I think that's extremely helpful. And also, just if you're comfortable with it, being an advocate for that change, I think helps a lot, because you're kind of getting the word out there. Because not a lot of people, I mean, people think about it, but there's still a group of people who still need to be aware of it. And so the more people we have aware of the things that need to be changed within tech in terms of representation, then hopefully the more we can grow as a group.
Yeah, when I do talk to women about their challenges in this world, I hear a lot of similar stories, it's similar to yours, and sometimes much worse. Your answer was positive. I've heard a lot of bad things, and I would say in the last 5-6 years I've been paying a lot more attention to it, and specifically, trying to talk to women about their experiences when I go to conferences, because that's really where, because I work at home, so I don't really have I don't have anybody to talk to really, but I have been trying to reach out to understand, because being a male, and even a white male, when I started in this business, all of my classes were male. I mean, I don't remember hardly any women at all, Even when I started working in this business, there was hardly any women, in programming positions and things like that. And that's changed, of course, since I've been doing this, and it has gotten better, but I think it needs to get a lot better. I think women have a lot to bring to this industry, and there's lots of things that you're a lot better at than we are. Like multi-threading. I mean, this kind of multi-threading, right? And math. You guys usually are better at math, and there's lots of great things, and so I've always tried to be inclusive, but being inclusive, I think, is more than just it's just knowing about the problem, but trying to understand it, and then trying to help people, right? And that's why I've been talking a lot more. Before 5 or 6 years ago, I would I know women have a harder time, and and I'm here for them, but I didn't really try to understand the issue. And so I've been doing a lot more of that, and so it's too bad you have to go through this, because our world would be a lot better with more of you, and And so, yeah, it's a tough thing, and I hope someday, I can have some, shows that really target this subject. And I've been thinking about it ever since, I came up with the show, but I haven't come up with a great way to do it yet. So I'm still, have that process going on. But
Cool. Yeah. I think for me, like, at least in my personal workspace, I can't wait for the day where I don't know every Black person in my org. It's like,
yeah,
I know all of them, which is cool. But at the same time, it tells me that there's still room for growth and there should be more representation.
yeah,
Because, yeah.
and one thing you said, with your answer was, you had to go and reach out and try to find these groups of people to give you support. And one thing I've said a lot, maybe not so much on the show, but I do, in other places. But just reach out to anybody you think that might be able to help you, right? And because you never know who really does want to help you, but you have to ask, right?
Absolutely.
And, yeah. So to give you an example, in my team at work, I'm the only white person on the team. I'm the only person from America on my team. So and one of the things I've been doing in the last year and a half or more is there's this one woman on my team who's probably in your age range, and she's from Vietnam, and I've been mentoring her a lot at work, and not only because I like helping people, but she likes learning. So one of the things about being a mentor is, I love being a mentor for people who really want to learn, and don't want to just have their answers given to them, right? And so so I've been mentoring her a lot, every single week, if not almost daily, and I even helped her get into a master's degree program, which she started at the end of last year. So I'm really proud of her for going, for her master's degree, and she's specifically targeting AI and machine learning, I think. So,
Sweet.
And I even help her out with her schoolwork too. So
It's cool.
yeah. So those people from women or different cultures, just reach out to somebody, right? It can't hurt to ask. There's lots of us just waiting to help you. But you have to ask. It can't hurt.
That said, I do want to note, like, also, everyone else should also educate themselves and take that initiative too, because I think part of the problem with even just trying to ask is that it can be intimidating, right? Like, I walk into a classroom full of nothing but dudes sometimes in school and be like, oh my gosh, this is a little intimidating. Like, all right. And, similarly, I've started talking to students a lot more, and with them, it's, while we as Microsofties can offer ourselves up as mentors, sometimes it can be scary as the student to be like, oh my gosh, but they're from Microsoft and they probably know everything. What am I? And here I am just trying to ask, like, I don't know how to write a print statement. Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah, it's that for some reason that kind of reminds me of when I first met my favorite guitarist of all time, because I'm a guitarist, and I've been, working for bands doing photography for since the 80s, and so my favorite guitarist of all time is someone called Steve Vai, and he's actually a Grammy-winning artist, and he wins a Grammy almost every year, and he is phenomenal guitarist. I mean, he's just crazy talented, right? And I mean, his first gig, like in a real band, was Frank Zappa, back in the 70s. For those of you who know who Frank Zappa is, he was Frank Zappa's second guitarist, right? And so he's pretty out there because coming from the Frank Zappa world. But anyway, I got to meet him a couple times, actually, hang out with him. Not only meet him, but actually sit around and hang out with him and talk to him. And the first time, I was just dumbstruck. I was so afraid to ask questions. I just sat there, not being able to do anything because I was going, how can I ask Steve Vai anything, right?
Right.
He's just going to think I'm an idiot, And so I think I did ask him a few minor questions, right? Nothing super big. But the second time I got to hang out with him, I came prepared, you know, and I hang out with his in his dressing room, and I came prepared with questions this time, and good ones, you know. And so that time I didn't feel so dumb and afraid, you know, because I did prepare myself first, you know, to ask somebody of this stature, you know. Like for example, he does these master classes, you know, every once in a while, and I won't even go, you know, because I'm just too intimidated, guitarist to even sit in front of, you know, Steve Vai, right? So
Yeah.
but don't be afraid. That's I guess my biggest thing is don't be afraid, right? It's I know rejection hurts. You know, we deal with it all the time, but you know, you're not gonna move forward if you stay afraid, right? So anyway, um, so let's talk about some Visual Studio stuff. Do we have
Yeah.
any Visual Studio questions? Yeah, nope. Come on, guys, or girls, we need questions. You know, about Visual Studio or being a woman in tech, or anything you want. This is your show. So let's go to my list of questions, I guess, first,
Okay.
and that is kind of part of you know, the future of Visual Studio. I asked Kendra this, and you know, I don't know if she couldn't or didn't want to tell me that, you know, what's really coming in the next year or so in Visual Studio, but you know, so let's talk about extensions at least. So
Okay.
at least in the future of Visual Studio, you know, one of the things that you know, two of the things I've listed is you know, the loading, unloading performance issues, and when I talk about loading and unloading, I don't see apps doing this anymore. I mean, add-ins doing this anymore, and maybe they just don't want to, or maybe they can't anymore. But you know, for example, you know, Code Rest from DevExpress, right? They used to have a feature where, you know, while you were in Visual Studio, you could unload it, right, and then you could load it, and that way you didn't have to go to the extension manager and reboot Visual Studio, and it worked really well. But I don't see apps doing that anymore, and
Mm.
so that's what I kind of mean by loading and unloading. Performance problems, I think you guys know about,
Yeah.
and then you know, and also, you know, I was talking a little bit earlier about, you know, working with the guys from Code Factory is, you know, and so what's the roadmap of getting extensions, you know, moved to .NET 5, you know.
Mm.
Yeah, because right now
Okay.
they're still in the framework, so you know, I know a lot of us, or probably a lot of people, are wanting to go to you know, .NET 5 for
Yeah.
purely that, you know, performance increase that you can get just by moving .NET 5.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I can talk about it a bit, but like Kendra, I'm gonna have to dodge some obstacles that I can't quite share at the moment.
Yeah,
But
that's okay.
yeah, so on the hot reloading side, which I believe that's what you're describing with
Yep.
being able to disable or enable an extension without having to restart. Yeah, I get it. That is something that is on our radar that we're currently working on as part of our Gladstone, or as part of our new extensibility model effort.
Hmm.
Um, and that's and the main goals of that are to make it easier to write extensions while also maintaining the same functionality that currently exists with the current model, while also making it more reliable. So when I think of performance, a piece of that I think of reliability. So you might have had times where an extension may cause Visual Studio to hang, or you know, yeah, or cause a tool window to freeze or something like that, and that can be really frustrating for a lot of people. And part of the reasoning for that is because with the current model, it is in proc, so that model has a lot of functionality and complexity, in part because it has almost free reign of everything that Visual Studio can do, for better and for worse.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, so what we're doing with this new model is pulling it out of proc predominantly, so that we can still keep those same functionality pieces, but if something goes wrong in that extension's code, it's not going to directly cause VS to crash or hang or
Yeah,
any of those
yeah,
fun activities, you know?
yeah. I get that a lot, you know,
Yeah.
unfortunately, you know, and Oh, go ahead. I didn't know.
Oh, that was kind of my
Oh,
general one. Did I hit all your
yeah,
points? Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I think two things I thought about while you were giving your answer. Two things I've kind of wanted, a lot in Visual Studio, and one is, and I think I've talked to Mads about this, but one is, I'd like a way to restart Visual Studio without extensions. I know you could do that by the command line, but I'd like it in Visual Studio, right? So,
Mm,
not a safe mode, right? But no mode, so you can kind of start figuring out which extension is causing the problem, because that's one of the problems, is trying to figure out which extension is doing it, right?
yeah, you're not
And
alone in that.
yeah, and along with that, it's it, it's kind of useful when we get those little yellow things at the top of the screen saying that this
Mhm.
extension is causing a performance issue, but and usually I just say ignore, because most of the time I don't really even know what it means or what I can even do about it.
Right.
But as far as kind of looking at what extensions are causing the problems, or maybe what extensions are causing the biggest performance problems, right? Is it would be nice to have some kind of window in Visual Studio. Maybe you can't do that because they're in proc now, but it would be nice to have a window kind of showing you all the extensions that are loaded and how much memory they're taking up, and kind of like the task manager, but for
Hmm.
for extensions. I know people have talked about that, but I'm going to say it now that I would really like that. So
Yeah, I think that's a cool idea, definitely. And
yeah,
yeah, and I think with performance and those kinds of issues as a whole, that is definitely something that we're really honing in on moving forward in the near future. I can't really say much more than that, but we are definitely prioritizing performance and trying to fix those issues because everybody has them
yeah,
and it's not fun for anybody. So,
yeah, yeah. I know,
yeah.
I know. And I think I've had to limit the number of extensions I actually use, because it's just with 16 gigabytes, I'm kind of having to do that now.
Yeah.
And until I go to like maybe a 32 gigabyte Surface, when this one craps out.
Hmm.
So, but what was I just thinking about extensions? Um, Moving to .NET 5. Oh, I just had an idea about extensions. It'll come back.
Cool.
Um, my head is kind of all clogged up, so it's
No
um,
worries.
so one of the other things on my list, because no one's asking questions. Come on, everybody, ask some questions. I know there's thousands of you watching, so somebody's got to have a question. Come on. Um, uh, hey, Simon, did anybody win the screen grab contest yet? They'll say it on the chat, maybe. Um, so one of the things that I've been wondering, and I did talk to Kathleen about this, and that is, being a Microsoft MVP, I don't get a lot of sessions about Visual Studio at all. In
Yeah.
the the NDA meetings that we have, there's hardly any Visual Studio. So I would say again that I would like to have more MVP sessions about Visual Studio and the tooling, and especially when you guys are looking at doing something, right? So we can
Yeah.
kind of help you guide, if that's a good idea or not a good idea, and maybe have some ideas about how to make it better, right? But I just don't see a lot of it. I see a lot of Azure, meetings like this, but I don't really see a lot of Visual Studio meetings like this.
Yeah.
So there's my plug again to have more of
That's
those.
That's totally fair. Yeah, I've really only been involved in one MVP summit.
Hmm.
That's what I think of first when I think of MVP stuff.
Yeah.
And I did have a talk I was going to do on like debugging tips and tricks. I remember one year, but it got cut just due
Hmm.
to other sessions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting that there's not more Visual Studio related things, especially
Yeah.
since you have like the chat time where you can just ask the team anything. When I feel like it would make sense to have more Visual
Yeah.
Studio
Yeah.
sessions.
Yeah,
So
I think so too, because it's, I mean, there's ideas in Visual Studio that are mine, because
yeah.
at the MVP Summit, we were coming up with ideas and they picked two of my ideas and said, yep, we're going to do these, and so, I think the MVP community has a lot to give to this space. And so don't forget about us.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I'm assuming there's like a survey or evaluation form after the fact and stuff too. So like
Yeah.
call all of your MVP buddies and tell them that you want more Visual Studio stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I will vouch for it too next time I'm on that
So
meeting or chat.
anybody that's an MVP watching this, please tweet the MVP award and say we need more sessions on Visual Studio. There you go. So talking about extensions and performance and things like that, is there anything that we can do now besides disabling extensions,
Right.
to kind of speed up the loading of Visual Studio to make that better? Because my Visual Studio now takes at least a couple minutes to actually be useful, and so I'd like to know if you guys have any tips to maybe make that a little better, some secrets or something.
Yeah. So I can kind of speak from at least several sections. So like from a debugging standpoint, I'm familiar with just enabling just my code. Even something as simple as that can help reduce some performance issues. There is this cool new feature called solution filters, and it's specifically for people who have large amount of solutions and files and stuff. So the idea is when you boot up Visual Studio, you can filter which solutions you'd like to have loaded on boot up of Visual Studio. So instead of going through everything that you have in your project, it's only going to load initially the things that you specify. So that's a new feature that everyone should try out, because I know the solution filters team and PMs and engineers would love to get feedback on that.
And how do you get to that? Is that an options, or is that something you do in the solutions window?
I'm not entirely sure, and that's one of the things the team's working on is discoverability of that. I do believe there's a blog post on it called, if you Google solution filters Visual Studio, I'm sure it would come up. But
okay. I'll do that tomorrow and add it to my blog about the show. Yeah. Okay.
Sweet. Yeah, give it a try and share feedback. As far as general perf goes, there's things that are in the works, but again, I tell you, but it's top secret at the moment.
Is it top secret? You're going to change the version name?
No.
Yeah. Okay. You hesitated. Well, we can't say yet.
Yeah. If you're looking for guests to talk more about performance in general, I would recommend Varun, who I can share their full name after this, because we're all on a first name basis at work, so I don't know anybody's last names if I'm being honest. But Varun on the performance team of Visual Studio is pretty much the head of like all things performance and would know a lot more.
Yeah. Let me know after the show. Hang out after the show ends, and you can give me his name. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. I'm always looking for more people to come on the show. That's for sure. I'm trying to fill up March. I've got most of March done. I think I have one more slot open. So,
and I guess the other thing, also debugging related, is sometimes profiling tools can be on by default, such as like CPU usage and stuff, and those can those can cause performance issues too. So
I always turn that off. Cool. Yeah, whenever I have to reinstall Visual Studio, that's the first thing I turn off. Is that CPU monitor thingy, because that really drags down the performance of Visual Studio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really use stuff like that. I use actually third-party products to do performance monitoring and things like that.
Interesting. Yeah, because I think the profiling tools are plug for my debugging diagnostics team out there. Yeah. I think they're really cool.
No, they're great. But what I mean is, I use a tool called dotNet Memory Profiler, that really digs into the memory. You can drill down all the way down to actually where the issue is, and you can even see the values and stuff like that. And so, before I release any major product, I run, I run that against, the code as close to production as I can get it, right? And because, I've told people a lot of times, over and over again, that is the only way to find the last bit of performance and memory issues is by running the code in near production, in a near production way by using an external tool like this on the compiled code, right? That's the best way I've been able to find issues and performance problems. And even I've gone to Microsoft, I've gone to the MVP Summit and said, hey, whoever is who is ever in charge of that team, I go, do you know you have a performance problem in this HTTP thingy way up here? And they go, really? I go, yeah, I can send you the info on it. So unfortunately, I don't see a lot of people using tools like that, and it's too bad, because I've even worked at a company that said, yeah, we'll figure out the performance problems after it gets into production. I'm going.
Profiling tools don't get enough love in my
No, they don't. They don't. And, and generally I've found they're really difficult to use, right? And especially, and I don't mean difficult running them. I mean difficult analyzing the results, right? Whether you're looking at something like the output from the dotNet Memory Profiler, which does the best output I've seen of any of these kind of tools. But even if you look at the the Windows profiling stuff and things like that, it takes a lot of time to dig through the results and try to understand what's going on, and especially if that's not your job, right?
Sure.
And so you're trying to figure out, what does this really mean? What
exactly.
What does this pin thing in memory mean to me, right? And so that's where it gets difficult, and that's where I usually tell people that you really need to have somebody pretty senior on the team to be doing this before release, right? Because usually they're the people that understand these kind of things better than maybe the younger people on the team. But
and I hope that wouldn't be the case moving forward.
Yeah.
At least from the Visual Studio profiling side, I think there's been a lot of work done lately to expand the capabilities of that profiler in particular, and make it more accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people don't realize that profiling tools are important until, things hit the fan.
Right.
Right. It's like,
until there's
crap.
a problem. Right?
Yeah. Right.
Until your whole electrical grid goes out, then you start worrying about it, right?
Like, what do I use? Oh, no. So, yeah. And unfortunately, that's the way a lot of teams are. Yeah, we won't worry about it until something happens. I even worked at this company where I asked we had two lead architects, and which to me were kind of useless. And I asked them before we released the first version of our product, I said, okay, so what we got to talk about security. He goes, we won't worry about it until there's a problem. Yeah.
What are you talking about? You're a lead architect. This is what you're telling me? Oh man.
Yeah.
I don't think you could get away with that now, because this was like 10 years ago. But security, I think, is a lot more on the top of people's minds than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, definitely is.
Still no questions. Man, maybe everyone's
content with VS, I guess.
I guess so. So we're getting close on the end of time, so maybe we'll get, and I don't know if you can answer these questions either, but one of the things, before we move off the debugging thing, I did want to talk a little bit of, what did I want to talk about debugging?
You mentioned Pinnable Properties earlier.
So what's Pinnable Properties? I think I've heard about that, but I don't think I've used them because I can't remember what they are.
Yeah, so that tool is one of my personal favorite debugging tools. The idea is, if you've ever opened up a list, or if you opened up a tooltip and saw like a long list of items, specifically objects, but they don't give you specific information, you wish you could just browse that entire list by a particular property or something like that.
Yeah.
So the workaround for that used to be, and it still exists, this attribute called debugger display. And this was something
I use that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could add it to the top of your class and specify which properties you want presented throughout your entire debugging environment. The problem with that is that not a lot of people know about it. And when I first started doing tips and tricks debugging talks, I'd show it off debugger display and people would be like, wow, that's really cool. And everyone would be talking about it. And everyone would be like, is that new to VS 2019? Like, no, I don't.
It's been a while.
Since the dawn of time. So I approached the team like, hey, this is really cool functionality, but nobody knows about it. So let's try to make a more discoverable way of performing that same action. So that's how Pinnable Properties came about. And so now instead of having to figure out the syntax and write code at the top of your class, there is a little pin icon that will appear if you're in either a watch window, like autos, locals, or if you're in a tooltip and there's like a pin icon when you hover over the object or the object's property. So you select the property that you want, click the pin, and it will pin that property to the top of the list. And now you can easily access and see all of your objects based off of particular properties that interest you. Wow. I think it's really cool. It saves people a lot of browsing time.
I'm gonna have to check that out. That's great because lately I've been writing a lot about the debugger display attribute. I wrote last year or the year before this series of object-oriented programming articles on CSharpCorner, and most of those articles just focused around encapsulation because that's one thing I don't see people doing well at all. And but anyway, so I think while I was writing those articles, I discovered the debugger display, and I go, wow, this is so cool, and so it's literally the I have a base class I use for all of my data objects, and so it's literally on that class because I use the ID as the debugger display for that. I think at work, all of our model classes have debugger display on it, and usually we're doing the main ID or something like that as the debugger display. But yeah, those of you who haven't used it, it's just an attribute. It's really easy to use, and when you're trying to go through the code and figure out what object is what is so great.
And if you don't want to write code to the top of your class,
then you can use the pinnable stuff, right? That's great. I'm gonna have to check that out. I know there's a lot of stuff like this in Visual Studio that we don't know about. I could talk about the same debugging tools for days, and I feel like there's still a lot of people out there who don't know about it. Because I don't know about you, but when I was in school, I didn't really learn how to use a debugger properly. No. I just put print statements everywhere and maybe use a breakpoint every so often, and that was about it. So and I feel like a lot of people were the same way. So there's a lot of people not taking advantage of the really cool tools that can save you frustration and headaches that come with debugging. And because quite frankly, we spent a lot of time in debugging.
Everybody does.
Probably more than coding, actually.
I talk about it all the time. I like to use the analogy. It's like waiting in line for a theme park ride. It's like you spend more time in the line. That's annoying.
Than you do on the ride.
Than you do on the ride. aka running your code and seeing it work successfully.
The other thing I wanted to talk about the along with the debugging subject, because I was just doing this right before the show, and that is benchmarking, something else I don't see people doing. And so all of my books now, have benchmarking. A lot of my articles have benchmarking results in it, And I'm thinking about a new article right now about the object pool, and I've been running some benchmarking on it to see, just how much more performance you can get by using an object pool than not. And so everybody out there, if you're not benchmarking your code, you need to. There's a really great tool that I use and Microsoft uses called benchmark.net, and I think that's what it's called. And so if you aren't benchmarking your code, you have to, because how do you know if it's faster this time than last time, right? The only way you know that is by benchmarking your code, and benchmark.net is awesome. It has so many features, and to help you. And Microsoft uses it. The .NET team uses it, so it's got to be good, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So
if we use it internally, then it's probably good.
yeah. So everybody, please benchmark your code also. And I'm starting. I hope to get my new performance book out with the release of .NET 6, and so pretty soon I'm going to start, working on all those new benchmarks and things like that for the new book for .NET 6. But yeah, it's something else. I spend more time benchmarking, debugging, all that stuff than coding, right? Writing unit tests.
Yeah.
Coding. I even have a meme about this, a dotNetDave meme about this that says that if you're spending most of your day coding, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. Fair.
Because that's not what we do most of the day.
Yeah.
So anyway, all these are great topics, and I hope we get to talk more about them, and specifically more, with more people from the Visual Studio team to help us in these kind of issues. So.
Oh, I believe Kimberly has a question.
Someone has a question. If you only had 3 debugging tools to use, which ones would they be?
Shoot. Okay. So I'm going to exclude the usual suspects. So basic breakpoints and stepping tools. Pinnable Properties, I genuinely use a lot. So I would keep that one. It's just easier to read when I'm debugging all day. Yeah. I like to use it alongside the search tool in the watch window as well, because it can help you better filter down what you're looking for too. So if you use Pinnable Properties together with search, it can really save you a lot of time. And I really like run to click, and that's that green arrow that shows up when you hover over a line. So if you have a breakpoint set somewhere and you want to fast forward all the way down to like the bottom of a function, for instance, but you don't want to have to step and spam F11, right? You can use the green icon to automatically step through all of that up to that particular line of code.
Oh man, I keep forgetting about that one. I just do another breakpoint.
Yeah, don't do it. No, don't add so many breakpoints. You don't want to see red everywhere. Yeah. Yeah, I use that one a lot. Saves a lot of time if you don't want to set a breakpoint there. And yeah, it's great. And if you want to fast forward out of a loop, it can be helpful in that regard too. So yeah.
Great. Was that 3? That was the.
I think that was 3.
The Pinnable.
Pinnable Properties search. Yep.
That's a great question, Kimberly. I really appreciate you asking. Any other questions? Go. We have a couple minutes left. Okay. Well, let's go to the fun questions for today, because we gotta get out of here.
All right.
First one is what do you do for fun? I know you play piano and dance. Yeah. What else do you do? Yeah.
Yep. Piano, dance. I'm a huge gamer. Love gaming. I particularly like JRPGs. Playing Persona 5 stuff right now. Feel free to chat with me about that. Over quarantine, I discovered the love of baking. Yeah, I absolutely love it. I used to hate cooking and baking in any way, shape, or form, and then something happened where I am now addicted and can't stop. I love it. Yeah, I think I'm going to try making sticky toffee pudding this weekend. See how that goes. Man. I made macarons last week. That was an adventure. Macarons are no joke. Beware the delicate ones.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. That's big. Baking is tough.
I
think baking is a lot tougher than normal food usually.
I agree. I mean, it's all about precision, really. I mean, I learned weighing your ingredients is way, but why did the U.S. come up with some weird cup system where every cup is irregular and don't get it. Just get yourself a scale and you'll never be wrong most of the time. It's so much nicer.
Yeah, I bet.
And I love to read too. So particularly fantasy. I'm a huge fantasy nut. So.
Do you like, I don't know if this is fantasy. Do you like The Expanse?
It's, I know what you're talking about. I heard it's really, really good. Some of my friends watch it. I haven't seen it though. I'm trying to get more into sci-fi. I'd say that's more sci-fi. But
The Expanse lovers said the books are better. I could definitely attest the last season of The Expanse was not great. So
oh, really? I should ask my friend.
I know. I don't know if there's a future for the show, but I hear the books. Yeah, I hear the books are really great. So
wow. Maybe I'll add that to my list of books. Because because I have a friend who raves about it all the time, like the show at least. And I don't know if he's read the books, but he really liked the show.
I think it was the second or third season that just blew my mind. I was just sitting there going,
wow.
I can't believe this is a TV show,
I love shows like that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, just the sheer quality of the computer graphics were just mind-blowing.
Dang.
Yeah. I was pretty impressed. The last show that impressed me was, I think last month or December, I watched the first season of Picard, and the computer graphics on that show are pretty amazing too.
Nice.
Yeah, and I love watching those shows because I love to see how they think our world is going to be in the future and what gizmos and gadgets and things like that. And even I specifically pay a lot of attention to how they interact with computers. It's like you never see a keyboard, right? In the future, never, right?
Nope.
There's no keyboards.
It's like hollow touch.
Yeah, it's all these weird touchy, or you mainly
voice
talk
commands.
to the voice commands, right?
Yeah.
I would love to write my next book by talking to Alexa. That would be great.
That would be so cool. Shoot, I feel like editing might be kind of hard unless it was like.
You have to edit it later, but just getting it down. I think my thoughts would be better if I'm not trying to type it at the same time I'm trying to think it. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I know a lot of people that don't write type books use voice recorders and stuff like that, but
that's really cool.
Yeah. There's what else I was going to say. Oh, Simon, can you put this on the screen? HelloWorldCookbook.com. So since you love to bake and we don't really know each other, I'm doing a program. I'm doing a project right now that I'm gathering food recipes from geeks just like you and me from all over the world, and I'm putting together in a book called the Hello World Cookbook. Simon, the Hello World Cookbook. Maybe he's in the bathroom.
And then I'm having a hard time finding the right URL.
Oh, it's just HelloWorldCookbook.com. Yeah. Anyway, so you bake. I don't have any baking recipes, so please submit your recipes because once I get enough recipes and get the book out. Thanks, Simon. 100% of the proceeds will go to the Voice of Slum NGO in India, which I talk a lot about on the show. I was there 2 years ago, and the Voice of Slum is actually in a slum in Delhi, and it was literally the most moving experience ever in my travels. And I've been trying. So my performance book right now, 100% of the proceeds goes to the Voice of Slum, and which has helped them restart their vocational training program, but I want to help them more. And so the book is doing this. A couple of weeks ago, CSharpCorner had a 2-day live virtual conference where they raised over $2,000 for the Voice of Slum, and $2,000 in India goes a really long way. So anyway, I hope you'll send me some recipes. I hope everybody else out there will submit the recipes too, because I really, really want to get it out this year. So please send your recipes to there. And if you don't cook, you can sign up to be a unit tester to test the food, because I can't eat a lot of the food because I eat gluten-free. You can sign up to edit the book because I'm never great at English. And you can also sign up to do help with the graphic arts of the book too. So there's lots of ways to help if you don't like to cook. I know a lot of cooks. I mean, a lot of people in this industry don't cook very much. So, but some of us do. I was a cook at a restaurant when I was 18. So
I think people, at least in my work, definitely know how to cook. Back when we were still in the office, we'd have annual bake sale / just cooking, baking sale, I guess, put together, and proceeds would go to specific charities and stuff. And people know how to cook like crazy. It's ridiculous. I know somebody on my team who made this crazy cake that looked like a tub of beer. And you look at it and it's like, it doesn't look like cake. It's ridiculous. Like she sent this picture and I'm like, oh, it's just beer. And then you look closer and you're like, wait, it's like sugar and oh my God.
Yeah, I don't watch those, baking shows, but I've seen clips of them where they get pretty out there,
Oh, I wish.
yeah. It's
I haven't reached that level yet, but
I'm going. How do I eat this or just
right. Can I just
put it on the
admire it?
mantle or put it on the mantle to look at?
Yeah. It's like, oh my goodness.
I know. Well, we're past out of time now. Is there anything you want to plug before you go?
I
Your
guess,
Toolbox show. You
yeah,
can plug that.
Toolbox.
Yeah.
Check out VS Toolbox. You can Google that on YouTube, and you should be able to find a whole playlist of Visual Studio Toolbox. So say Visual Studio Toolbox or VS Toolbox, either one works. And also, you can go to Channel 9. That's the main site for all of our other Microsoft related shows that we have, including mine. So
Yeah.
I think that would be my big one. And continue sharing your feedback. Like VS runs on feedback a lot of the time. So, if there's anything that you'd like us to change that we haven't explored yet, feel free to reach out to me or to anybody on the team.
Yeah, and that feedback actually works. I mean, because I've been doing a lot lately, and so those of you who don't know what we're talking about, go to the help menu, and then right under that, there's a link to send problems, and there's a link to send feature requests. And I've been using that a lot, and Microsoft actually is looking at it, and they are actually fixing some of the stuff I put in. There was one thing I submitted that they literally had fixed the next day.
Awesome.
It was crazy. It was some searching thing in one of the dialogues, and they literally fixed it the next day. And
That's cool.
I was going, okay, either they were already working on it, or dang, they're fast, right?
Yeah.
So
That's really awesome.
So that stuff works, but so instead of bitching about it on Twitter like I seem to do a lot, I've been trying to focus, on actually putting in these tickets so they can actually look at them. So
Real humans read it.
yeah,
So,
yeah. So please do that. So thanks a lot for being on the show. I'm sad we ran out of time. I think I talked too much because I don't feel well, but I really want to have you back on the show, and some of your other teammates too, or anybody else you want to think about. If you hang out after the show, we'll chat a little bit about those people. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that was awesome. I think I got through the show okay without screwing up too much, so I'm glad about that. I think that was a great interview with Leslie. I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it because it's hard to focus on things when you're kind of not feeling great. So. I want to plug the Azure Cosmos DB conference coming up in April. I hope you'll check it out. It's free, and so I'm going to be there. I'm not speaking, but I'm going to be there watching because I really love Cosmos, and it's such a huge change from like relational databases for those older programmers out there. You really need to attend this conference. So I hope you'll do that. All right, thanks for watching. Next week, we're going to be off next week. The week after, I'm really excited to have actually a good friend of mine, Ike Ellis. He's general manager of data and AI practice at Soliance. So I'm really excited to talk to Ike, not only to catch up with Ike, but he's literally the best data person I've ever known, and so I can't wait to have him on the show and chat with him and see how he's doing, and talk about all the stuff he's up to, of course. Please stay safe. Listen to your medical professionals about COVID-19 pandemic. We're not over it, so please pretend that we're not, or know that we're not. I think today we're going to hit 500,000 people that have died from COVID in America today. So it's a very sad milestone for sure. If you're able, which most of you are, please donate blood at your local blood bank. I was supposed to donate tomorrow, but I had to cancel because they called me and said, no, you don't sound good, so you can't come in. So please go donate it, because I can't. And if you live in the U.S., if you tweet me proof that you donated this weekend, I will send you a copy of my brand new book, and some dotNetTips.com swag. So this weekend, donate blood and get some free training and some free cool stuff. Okay. And with that, please email your suggestions, including requests, who you want to be on the show, or if you want to be on the show, to Rockin Code World at CSharpCorner.com. And I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks.